Back with another interview in the Rise of Women's Sports series. This time we are joined with the incredible Edona Thaqi. She has done so many things around the world of women's sports. She's a color analyst for the WNBA's Connecticut Sun. She's an assistant coach for the Kosovo national team, also a former player, played at my alma mater, Fordham University, as a women's basketball player, played for the Kosovo national team as well. Edona, how's life been for you recently?
Life has been good, but I'm more excited to be on this. So thanks for having me, Julia.
Of course, of course. And I want to ask you first, your perspective as being a player kind of before that rise really started to happen in Division One collegiate basketball, but you've stayed in the women's basketball sphere now as a broadcaster, a sideline reporter. You've done a lot of things. From your perspective, being a player and then seeing the growth post being a player, what has that experience been like?
I mean, you've seen it all over the internet, right? The growth has been amazing. First of all, like I know I played in college and we talk about college and the WNBA, like two different spheres there, but it's just grown tremendously. Like people are now talking about women's basketball. And the thing is, the talent has always been there, right? There's always been fun, exciting women's basketball to watch, but now you're hearing more about it. Now people actually want to tune in. You have sold out crowds. The WNBA just set a record. Was it the Fever and Aces for the most attendance since 1999 in the WNBA, which is really so great to see. But the other thing too is the WNBA hasn't been around for that long, and to see the growth that has happened is tremendous. And I feel like it's going to continue to skyrocket. And then you compare it to the NBA. The NBA has been around for such a long time. So it's like, that it's just going to continue to keep growing as more people are investing in it.
Absolutely. And being a broadcaster for a WNBA team that has been performing very, very well recently, the Connecticut Sun, I was wondering
Yeah.
what it's been like to be in those spaces with the not only just the players, but the atmosphere this season.
Well, first of all, I'm always grateful, right?
Right.
To have the opportunity to be in the same room as these people and to just have a chance to be able to call a game for them is a blessing for me. And it just felt I've learned so much as a broadcaster, and covering a team that's doing really well obviously makes your job a little bit easier and fun. I've loved every second of it. I think too, the Connecticut Sun are such a fun team to cover because they have so many talented players. They have such a great head coach, and that you could tell that this team, they really play for one another, right? Like they are out there doing whatever it takes for the greater good of the team, and you could just see it translate onto the court. And even being at their practices, like they are constantly going hard, trying to be at their best. And you have leaders like Alyssa Thomas and Dewana Bonner at the top, but from top to bottom that team is stacked with talent, and everyone is playing their role and owning their role.
Yeah, 100%. It's been so fun to watch that team play. I mean, as a Liberty fan, it's like, okay, they can chill out, but it is really good basketball at the end of the day. And I mentioned in the intro that you have a lot of international experience as well, both as a player and a coach. From your perspective on that front, because that's something I'm super interested to hear from you about, because the rise in US basketball has been tremendous. But there's also the part
Yeah.
where, a lot of WNBA players go overseas to get more money, but they get exposure in the US, which is a really weird thing because you think those things would go hand in hand, but they don't. But now
Yeah.
that there's popularity in the US, has that had a ripple effect in overseas basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes both ways. Like you mentioned, a lot of people come to America for opportunities, right? Like it's the same thing. Even when I was in Kosovo coaching, like a lot of players, there's a lot of talented players, but there's not many opportunities in Europe, right? NCAA basketball is in America. So it's like if you want to be able to play college basketball, you're going to have to leave your country. But the thing is, what I think is so interesting, it's a lot of like you look at Van Loo too. I believe she came, I'm forgetting which country, maybe Germany, or I think I'm making it, I don't want to make it up, but like she's a very talented player and she got drafted and has been killing it. Like there's so many talented players in Europe that just haven't been seen or haven't had exposure. So it's like now more and more you see more scouts and more WNBA teams, even on the NBA side, are starting to scout internationally because there's so much talent in basketball. It's become global. Like the game is continuing to grow globally, And you look at the game, the difference of, in Europe. And I remember when I was at a Team USA practice, like getting the chance to talk with Edona Thaqi, and she's like, I asked, what is the biggest difference when you're going to play for Team USA? Because it's different basketball. People don't realize there's different rules. It's a lot more physical. And she's like, you just start to learn the style of play for like teams like Germany, Belgium, like all of these teams, like you just start to learn their style of play. It's a lot more physical, fundamental too. And it's been fun to be able to be on that side of things as a coach, because it's just a different game.
100%. And that's something that's really cool too. That's happening really in the NBA and the WNBA. More international talent getting drafted right out of those international teams. I think there were a few Australian players this past year that got drafted as well, which is really, really cool to see. Because I think it changes the way basketball is kind of played in the WNBA, because you mentioned it. It's a different brand of basketball. So that's going to be interesting to see as more. I mean, you look at someone like Marina Johannes. I mean, the way she plays basketball is so different than a lot of other players.
It's even the footwork that's different. Like you look at their jab steps when they get into paint, how they're making their passes. Like you could just tell it's European basketball. Like I remember when I first started playing for the Kosovo national team, I had a hard time because I was getting called for travels left and right because it's just different footwork. But you mentioned it. It's people. A lot of players have went undrafted and are getting picked up in Europe. Like Sammy Whitcomb was somebody who was undrafted, and she played overseas for a long time and played in Australia. And that's where she really got a lot of her exposure and developed her game. And now is one of the top 3-point shooters in the WNBA. So it's players like that, people like that, that are continuing to evolve the game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, looking at the WNBA right now, there's been a lot of growth. Of course, you can't deny that, but it feels like there's kind of so much more space to be taken up, both in media and just in, the growth of the game itself. What do you hope to see in either of those facets moving forward, as the WNBA tries to kind of capitalize on this success?
Yeah, first of all, I hope the WNBA, it continues to capitalize on all of this exposure. But second, I just hope that the media continues to show the W for the right reasons. I think sometimes we're focused on the wrong things of trying to grow the game, and instead of focusing on all these talented women who are amazing at what they do, and they've been doing this for such a long time. So it's like I just hope that the media can start to kind of focus on those things and not focus on the wrong reasons of the game and the drama of it that's been coming along with all this exposure.
Yeah, I talked to Dexter Henry about this, but it's like the narratives that are being pushed sometimes are definitely not the narratives that should be being pushed, because it's far from basketball. And as a former player yourself, I feel like it's a lot easier to put yourself in the shoes of those current players right now that are, those narratives are being pushed. So I was wondering, it's got to be really, really difficult for those current players dealing with that.
100%. I think even as a former player, as a player, you just want to focus on playing basketball, and all the extra stuff that are coming along with things you may have said, may have not said. I can't imagine to be very frustrating and at times discouraging, because I feel like, especially in today's day and age, no matter what you say or when you say it, when things are cut up a certain way, they're always misconstrued. All right. So and a lot of the media is doing it for the clicks or whatever it is. And it's kind of upsetting. So I can imagine to be very frustrating when all you want to focus is on getting better, and especially if you're coming in as a rookie and already trying to adjust to the game, the physicality, just going from the college to the pros. That's a big adjustment there. And when you already have people on you about everything, it's tough. So I just hope that we can continue to grow for the right reasons and not focus on one player and all of that stuff.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that's a perfect way to finish this off. Edona, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been an incredible experience talking to you about your perspective and all of that good stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julia. This was great. I appreciate you.
Of course.